Okay folks, so I've got the welding all done for the frame part. Just a quick recap. As I mentioned earlier, I was going to put a brace underneath this tongue post, so now that's really sturdy. The winch post is all in place, everything else is done, completed. And so you know, if you're going to do this, make sure you weld underneath as well, right, to give it the increased stability. So where will you move on now? Well, let's continue with the frame portion, and we're going to make some fenders. So let's review some basic about fenders. The distance between your tires and the fender should be 3 to 4 inches. All right, just to allow for the suspension to move. Like if you look at the suspension here, these are drop axles. It's very unlikely that it'll go past 3 inches. So I've got 3 inches or so. So basically what I've taken is a couple 2x4s on each side, blends that, and that's it. So just for aesthetic purposes, I'm going to have these going at about 45-degree angle. I've measured that, and the rear is going to have a drop flap, so I don't need to go all the way down with my fenders. So essentially this top part is going to be 48 inches, and then the remaining angle is going to be 45 at the front and at the back, and that requires a 12-inch piece of this diamond plating. So I'd like these to be nice and sturdy. Therefore, what I'm going to do is put a brace in the middle that's going to come up, and then at an angle, and I'll have a triangular piece supporting the weight, and then the rest should be taken up by these cross members that are here and here. So let's get cutting. One of the accessories that's going to be pretty important to put on here is tie downs, and that's for, say, a big strap to go over your boat and hold it down while you're traveling. You can't just rely on the weight. So what I'm going to install is 4 tie downs, and each one, see, focus on this, each one is rated to up to 11,000 pounds. Now you can choose to put them on top like this, and that would be all right. But I think I'm going to use additional surface, either by putting on a steel plate here and then welding on top of that, so that I can have additional welding surface area, make it stronger. All right, let's weld these tie downs in place. We'll tack them on first. All right. All right, I'll tack them all and then I will finish the welding. The tie down welding is completed, and so as I said earlier, each one of these hooks can take 11,000 pounds. So I welded each onto a 3/8 of an inch thick plate, and then welded that onto the side of the frame at the exact locations where it needs to be to hold my particular boat. My friends, it is time to work on the winch post. And the first thing I want to do before I put on the winch and whatnot is fit this bow stopper. This bow stopper is 6.5 inches in width, and this block here is 3 inches wide, has a hole of a diameter of 0.5 inches. So what I've done is I've fabricated 2 brackets, one to go on each side of the post, and I'm going to explain to you how I did this. Well, first of all, these are approximately, let me see here, about 1 foot long, and as you know, my winch post is 4 inches wide. This is 3 inches wide. Therefore, I needed to have brackets that had a bend of 1/2 inch in order to then clear the winch post. Now, I'll go into details of how they're going to attach a little later. But first, I think it's important to go through this. How do you get a curve on 2 pieces exactly the same? Quite frankly, it's not that complicated. So first of all, you need to know the distance between where you want to end this piece and where you want to start, where it starts and where it ends. So this is about 1.5 inches. Great. So I made a mark here on both. Then what I did is I took both pieces, put it into my vise, and right down to where the mark is. And at that point, you can either struggle or you can use your brain and not struggle. So essentially, I bent them until they were at 65 degrees. So that bend that you see here is 65 degrees. And I measured that using one of these little electronic angle finders. It's just a fantastic tool. Once I was done the first angle, then I had to bring it back so that it would come back to 4 inches at this end, starting at this end. So I took, quite simply, I took this and I made it so I basically had a piece that came at an angle, and where it reached ½ inch, I scribed a little mark, which you see right here. So I put those evenly in my vise and then bent them until they were 90 degrees. And this is the result. I'm at the top of the winch post right now, and you see I've got the bracket assembled, temporarily of course. And I've got a couple of clamps here to hold it in. And one of the important things to do is to retain an angle for this bracket here. So, and in order to do that, I think what I'm going to make is kind of like a U-shaped bracket that goes in like this. That's, you know, 2 or 3 inches wide. That's going to have a hole. The hole will go through into the post. And in order to make this adjustable back and forth, I'm going to drill multiple holes that'll start here and go in 1 inch increments until I reach about 2 inches from the end. I don't want to make this too weak. Now it's time to actually finish the design and fabrication of this C channel, shall we call it, for these 1/8 brackets, which will serve as guides for this bow stop. So I could have chosen to take some 1/8 steel and cut and try to weld stuff, but you know, I've got a milling machine. Some of you might not, but this is let's roger that. I do stuff the way I want to. So what I'm going to do is take this 3/8 of an inch steel bar. I'm going to cut, this is 3 inch wide. I'm going to cut a 3 inch piece of it times 2. And I'm going to mill 3/16 into this thing to a width of 2 1/8, leaving 1/16 of an inch on each side so that it can slide. Made, I sort of did a dry run and then figured out where to drill the holes, and so I've got 6 level of adjustments, which is really good. So let's go and let's try it out on the winch post. All right, so this took a couple of dry runs in order to make it fit just the way I wanted, but it's working out pretty good. The bottom line here is that this C channel keeps the movement only in one direction. It is not able to let this stop move up or down, just one direction. So the only thing that's left to be done is weld this. Morning, back at it again, and today I'm going to tackle the winch implement. This is a unit that someone gave me. It's rated at 3,700 pounds, and it's a 2-speed job E7. The second speed is 1,700 pounds. So I want to mount that on the winch post, and the easiest way to do that is I'm going to cut this 4x4 to length to accommodate the bolt requirement of this unit. Might actually weld it, I don't know. And here's the pattern. So this would cover that. I could get it nice and centered on the winch post at the back of the bow stop. So it's time to get cutting and welding again. If you're wondering what I'm using to degrease that unit, because you don't want to have any oil traces when you try to weld, I use this WD-40 degreaser. It's very good. You can mix it with water so you get a little more for your money. Just spray it on, let it do its job, and then wipe it off, and that's the end of that. So that's another part done. Got the winch mounted. It's an old winch, but it'll work just fine because it works great. I just have to get a strap for it, and that'll be that. So now we're going to move on to something else.